Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Find a Moment podcast, where we navigate the space between ideals and everyday life. We are your hosts, Gretchen Roberts and Jennifer Ford, and we look forward to finding a moment with you today. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Find a Moment podcast. We are excited to have our final episode on health and wellness, nutrition and exercise. And there is no better way to conclude health and wellness than to introduce you to one of our friends, Trevor. Trevor is joining us today, and he is going to share so much wisdom and experience and practical tips with you all about nutrition and exercise. And so we will just jump in and let Trevor introduce himself.
Hey, my name is Trevor Wilson. I am a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I've had the privilege of working with Gretchen for, it's been a while now. How long has it been?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've made a lot of great progress together. I'm lucky enough to be invited on the podcast and share some of what I know and what I've shared with you and talk about a lot of health and wellness. So I run my personal training business called Wilson Wellness Solutions in Dallas, Texas. I do a lot of individual coaching and semi-private coaching with a lot of people. We focus on a lot of fat loss. I do sports performance, but I work with a lot of people trying to change their lifestyle more than anything. That is the most fulfilling for me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here to kind of talk with you guys.
Awesome. We are so thankful that you're here with us today. And you made the trek all the way from Texas to Carolina. So I'm glad that the timing worked out with some race competition to be a part of.
Well, I'm glad that I finally get to meet Trevor, because I hear all about Trevor from another friend and then from Gretchen. This is what Trevor says. And she does what you say.
She does.
She does.
She does.
One of the fun things that we do with our podcast, whether we have a guest or not, we like to start off with a meaningful moment, which is just where we're kind of just being real people. And for our listeners, it's a chance for them to get to know us by us sharing things that are important to us. So I don't know if you've got a meaningful moment to share. I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, but we'd love to hear something that was, and it doesn't have to be something amazing or great, but just something that even if you reflect on it, you're like,
yeah, something crazy going on in life right now. Jessica, my girlfriend, soon to be wife, is actually pregnant. So we're 16 weeks coming up on Monday. So that has been a process in and of itself, preparing for parenthood and just trying to support her in the journey as much as I can in this kind of stage where I'm sitting around doing nothing.
I'm pretty sure you just ran a Spartan race. I don't think
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot.
Yes.
It's a good lot, though.
It is.
So
You're going to be training the next generation now.
yeah, that's right.
Well, I'll go ahead and share mine. Today, we went to church this morning, and we got there early for once. And I was able to walk around and see a lot of people who I just feel like I haven't seen in so long. And it's because with family vacations and then, all these different things that we've had going on, I feel like summer is supposed to be the time where our church talks a lot about rest and just a change in rhythm, a change in pace, and resting and it's figuring out what that looks like. Summer has not been restful for us. And so that's like in terms of our activity level. And on top of that, we've been away a lot. So getting to be back and see so many people that it felt really good to reconnect. And it was a reminder that the fact that I had to reconnect means that my default is connection with them. And that there are so many people who I just love so deeply, who mean so much to me and my family. So it was good to have that today. It was a good start to the day and just a good reminder, especially as we're moving back into fall, where we're going to be more regularly at church on Sundays, being able to look forward to starting to see my people on a weekly basis again. Because I only see Gretchen regularly now. It's a lot of times, and my family, of course. That was meaningful. Do you have something, Gretchen?
I do, and mine is kind of something really practical. So this week, I have started decluttering and purging, and so I've been going closet by closet, and there is just something like a fresh start of taking a closet or the pantry and tackling it and being like, I'm going to just have a fresh start. So with the beginning of a school year, new school year, and we've had so many rainy days that I felt like it gave me the permission to say, okay, I'm just going to be inside and declutter and purge. And it was kind of ridiculous decluttering the pantry. It's like, why do I have this in here from 2022? I don't know why, but it is purged now. So I love a fresh start. I love starting from, a clean slate kind of thing. So we'll see how long the pantry stays cleaned out and organized. But I mean, very kind of practical, simple thing, but it makes me happy now when I go to get whatever out of the pantry and it's organized. So
You get to enjoy that.
yes.
You bring order and civility.
I try.
Gretchen, I'm going to let you kind of guide us through the conversation with Trevor because this is really your wheelhouse.
Oh, and it is yours too.
She told me the other day, she said, I know there's an athlete inside.
There isn't everybody. There absolutely isn't everybody.
And I feel old. And I said, no, you are an injured athlete and you are coming back. You are coming back. So,
Encourager.
so yes, we are so thankful that Trevor is joining us. And I met him over probably a year and a half ago. And one of the things that first struck me when initially talking with Trevor was you could tell how much he cared about what my goals were and what was important to me. It wasn't like he had an agenda and was trying to get me to buy in or get me to, train the way he does. He was really wanting to know what I need and what my goals are. And I think in one of the episodes I talked about years ago how I bought one of the physicians I worked with, she said, you have to weight train. And so I bought a barbell with like the little spin on weights that you attach on. And so I tried to do a few things. And then I just said I put it away because I didn't know what I was doing. So that was one of the reasons I reached out to Trevor because I knew I needed to lose fat and build muscle. And I didn't really know what I was doing. So, and I didn't realize that then in working with you, like how much it just encompasses your whole lifestyle with nutrition and exercise. And you really helped me get through that time period of getting rid of so many of the carbs and kind of that withdrawal and everything.
Sure.
So, Trevor, I would love to hear kind of starting with nutrition. What has been your experience training people of all different, from all walks of life? Like, what has been your experience with nutrition, with the nutrition side of health and wellness?
I think there are plenty of pragmatic things I could go and say, but the most important thing that I would tell anybody, and this kind of feeds into paying attention to what you eat, but also like learn what the foods you're consuming are actually made of, right? And so like when you talk about when we first started and you started tracking food and you started going, wow, that's how many carbs, or this has that much fat in it, or stuff like that. Just start reading your nutrition labels and learn where the foods that you're eating are at in terms of how much like protein you're consuming and how much fat you're consuming, how many carbs and all that stuff. And I think that's the biggest thing with people is that they don't actually know. A lot of people start, and I have that conversation very often with everybody when we first start and go, oh, I'm eating how much? And I should be eating this much.
Right.
And they go, yeah. And so that's the biggest thing is like, even if you don't get into something like tracking your calories, I would definitely just start paying a little bit more attention to what your foods are made of. And kind of the next step is to start tracking if you can kind of find a way to grind that into your lifestyle without it giving you too much resistance. Paying attention to what you eat is very important, especially as we age and stuff like that. Feeding our body how we should be is more and more important as we get older. I think it's really important to eat high protein, obviously, but there are plenty of ways to go about doing that. But the first step is definitely just to know what you eat.
Do you have any favorite apps that you recommend for tracking?
For free, I think MyFitnessPal is a classic. That's kind of the one that everybody thinks of. Other than that, I'm sure there's plenty of other free apps out there, plenty of other apps that will work for you, But even if you don't like MyFitnessPal, you could just go classic pen and paper if you really wanted to,
Right.
and start tracking it that way. But MyFitnessPal is definitely a staple for sure.
Do you track your food intake every day?
Every day.
What app do you use?
So the app that I use to train Gretchen on, I have a profile for myself and I train with. So before I was coaching, I used MyFitnessPal, and that worked pretty well. And so they had a lot of features that were free before that they locked behind a paywall, which is frustrating. But even still, you can kind of, even if you just want to know, MyFitnessPal is really good for just having somewhere to log it, having somewhere that you can have the data coagulated and just see in mass. That's pretty much all you need. The app is kind of structured to sell you the premium.
Yes.
Right.
I can
And
see that.
I would, which is, that's how it goes. And I would tell you, like, if you can look at it and you can know how much you eat, that's really all you need to know. And whatever tweaks you need to make from there, you can make on your own without having to buy into, like, I think one of the big things is, like, they tell you, like, where your biggest macro distribution meals are and stuff like that. All that stuff is kind of like nitty gritty in the weeds data that you don't really need. If you track the food and you know how many calories you're eating and like the distribution of the macros, you're fine from there. That's the biggest thing.
I used it initially in 2018, 2019, when all of those fancy features were free.
Right.
And now I'm using it again. I'm like, I know I used to be able to scan this barcode.
Yeah.
I know I used to be able to set my macros to grams for my goals instead of having to make it all add up to 100%.
Right.
It's more cumbersome and a little bit trickier, especially when I've gotten through breakfast and lunch and I'm trying to figure out dinner and I'm like, it's not going to add up.
Yeah.
So what is the app that you do use?
Gretchen trains on an app that we use to the facility that we train with. I have my own personal training app. It's our Wilson Wellness Solutions app. And it's on the same platform software. It's called Trainerize, but that's the app.
Okay.
Nice.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So what would you say if someone is trying to increase their protein, like they've tracked their intake and like, wow, I am really not getting much protein. What are some foods that you would recommend that are easy, maybe that someone could incorporate into their diet?
Yeah. If you're not lactose intolerant, I eat a lot of Greek yogurt. I used to eat a lot of Greek yogurt. I love Greek yogurt. You can kind of dress it up how you want to. It's very malleable. And Greek yogurt is also nice because you can have a lot of it and not really suffer a lot of like calorie penalty for it if we're going to treat it that way. Chicken breast is also a classic staple. If you don't really like to cook chicken breast, you can actually go grab something like a rotisserie chicken from your local grocery store. I used to, when I was in college, I did this. I would strip it down, toss the skin and the bones, and then just package up the meat. And you can kind of pick and pull from that as you go. And those are really great sources that you can get kind of lean without fat. Like you can get fat-free Greek yogurt and rotisserie chicken. If you toss the skin, that kind of takes care of the fat component for those. Those are my two staples, I would say. That and egg whites. Egg whites is another really great source. That's pure protein as well. And you can get that by the carton anywhere. Weird time where egg whites were in short supply, but I think we're kind of back to status quo with that. Those are really great sources of easy protein, I would say.
And if someone say they're looking, they say, okay, I'm not eating enough protein, and wow, I'm eating 300 grams of carbs a day. What would be your advice for weaning off or cutting the carbs?
Yeah, it depends on kind of the eating schedule that they're on. What I would say is just try to portion down throughout the day. A little bit over the whole course of the day. If you at breakfast, lunch, and dinner eat a little bit less of carbs at breakfast, lunch, and dinner will add up to a lot at the end of the day. And so it's not, we don't have to go to the other full extreme end and say something like, okay, cut out all your carbs or don't eat carbs for breakfast or any of that. Just portion down a little bit, especially once you start to, I think the biggest thing is being aware. First and foremost, you start to recognize, and then you can say, okay, I'm having this much, let me cut back to this much. Let's say a cup versus half a cup of something or whatever. the serving size may be. Just portioning down is probably the biggest thing first and foremost, and seeing how that works.
What are some mistakes that you see, like of people that are coming to you? What are some of the things that they're doing with their diet? Do you notice anything in particular?
I think there's a very significant misconception about what foods are actually carb dominant versus fat dominant. And so a lot of the foods that people consume are actually much higher in fat than they think. And fat actually has more calories per gram than carbs do. So protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, and a gram of fat has 9. And so if you're consuming a gram of fat, you're consuming more calories. And in terms of gaining fat and losing fat, how many calories you consume and burn and the balance of energy there is really important. So I think a lot of people just misunderstand what foods are made of, kind of touching back on our original thing.
Yeah.
And that causes people a lot of problems. Like I very often hear a lot of people saying that they don't understand where the issues are. And that's kind of why, because they don't know what they're eating.
Yeah.
And so just learning what the foods are about and tracking it and getting an idea of what you eat, then you can look at it and objectively say, from there, how much I should eat, or maybe I should eat less of something and more of something else. And that's a really helpful bit of information that you can kind of weaponize to go along with.
So in moving from nutrition into the topic I enjoy more,
That's fair.
the exercise.
True.
I think exercise may be a place where people struggle a lot to just get started and to know how to jump in. Do you want to talk about like your background of exercise? Do you want to share like any of your personal exercise?
Yeah,
with me?
I totally can do that. It's a bit of a longer story. I've been an athlete for pretty much my entire life. That was my identity growing up, was sports. I was a year-round kind of athlete. My parents told me I had to do something, and so that was what we did. I played football for over a decade in New York, and then when I graduated high school, it kind of got to that point of where it was like football wasn't quite worth pursuing because it wouldn't have gone any farther than college, And when you're in college and you're a collegiate athlete, it's kind of a time sink. When you're an athlete in college, that's what they expect you to do. And so to me, it wasn't worth pursuing. And I also had kind of incurred a lot of injuries from football at that point. And so I kind of put it down for a while, and it was a weird transition because me not having that athletic identity anymore, I kind of lost myself. I gained a lot of weight. And then I picked exercising back up. And so lifting weights and stuff like that, I kind of figured it out from scratch. And I discovered I wanted to pursue something like that because it had done so much for me. And so I thought PT school was a good idea. And then I kind of changed directions. I wanted to go to chiropractic school, and I started training in full when I graduated from UNCW, and I realized how much I actually just loved doing that, helping people. I see a lot of people derive a lot of benefit from just changing their habits a little bit, and that's kind of what's most fulfilling for me about it. And so it's kind of gone from there. And exercise is a very regular part of my life. I couldn't see it any other way. And it's one of those things that's never taken from me, like some things cost a lot, but I have only ever gained something from exercising. So that's kind of where we're at now.
That's a great way to look at it. In thinking about someone starting their exercise journey, like what would you recommend as kind of advice for someone who, maybe a mom who has children at home and doesn't have a whole lot of time and, has maybe, does some walking or gets on the treadmill every now and then, like what would you recommend as kind of how to take it kind of to the next level or to jump in more fully?
Sure. Yeah. I think, especially being a parent, the schedule is very kind of all over the place on a pretty regular basis. It changes, And so I think it's important to check in on your schedule pretty regularly and kind of look, okay, I have time maybe here this week or here on this day. And once you know where you have the time, you can figure out from there what to do. And so what I will say is if you're just walking and the next step is starting to lift weights, then find time once a week to lift weights. And once you can regularly facilitate weightlifting once a week and you want to bump it to twice a week, then do that. If you can get up to 3 times a week, that's perfect. I wouldn't say as, let's put that in quotes, normal person, right? They would need more than 3 times a week, but just trying to find the time in the schedule to lift some weights for sure by just sitting down and looking at it, you know, and as often or as little as you need to check in to find the time, then that would help.
And how much time, if they're doing, say, once or twice a week of lifting weights, how much time do you think it would take for each of those weightlifting sessions?
You can get a really great workout in 45 minutes if you structure it well, you know, using supersets and kind of putting stuff together in a way that makes sense. You can get a great lift in 45 minutes. And so I know for people that are short on time, the better you can have an efficient workout that makes sense, that's going to work out better.
And could they do that just with dumbbells at home, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm a very biased opinion on home workouts. You know, I like to have a gym that you can kind of progress because your body starts to recognize what you're putting it through. And so there's a thing in training called progressive overload, and you kind of have to provide an increasing amount of stimulus to it for your body to continue to progress. So if you have a gym close by that you can find and work, and any gym will work. It doesn't have to be a certain place to go. A lot of people I actually recommend starting Planet Fitness because Planet Fitness is easy to go to, and most Planet Fitnesses are everywhere.
Right.
You know, when you have a membership to Planet Fitness, you have a membership to all of the Planet Fitnesses. So I recommend people start there and just find the closest one and see what you can get into and go from there.
So if they're doing, say, resistance training once a week, would you have them do a whole body or would you have them do upper body once and lower body, or how would you
Yeah,
restrict them?
if you have just enough time to go once a week and you can dust off a full body workout once, that's going to be always better than nothing at all, you know? And that's kind of the thing I think a lot of people get lost in. It's kind of like the all or nothing idea where it's like, I can't make it happen this much, so I might as well not do it at all. And I think it's kind of a backwards thought process if you really look back and think about it. But a lot of people, even myself, sometimes get caught up in that idea. And so what I would say is if you can go once a week and have a nice full body workout, you know, if you can hit a little bit of chest, back, legs, maybe some arms and some shoulders or something, that's always going to be better for you than if you skipped it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, if you were going to go once or even twice a week, 3 times a week, and you could hit a full body workout a few times a week, that's perfectly fine.
And I think that goes back to our subtitle of the navigating that space between ideals and everyday life. And I think we have the ideal of, I'm going to go 3 days a week and 4 days a week, and I'm going to do this and this and this. And then everyday life hits. And then you end up, like you said, just not going at all because you feel like, oh, I can't do what my ideal is. So I think a lot of people find themselves in that space.
Yeah.
Trevor, what would you say is sort of your ideal with your approach to exercise? But then what are some examples of everyday life? And because this is your profession, I would imagine there's not typically much of a gap between those two.
Yeah.
So maybe take a second in mind for
Yeah.
something that is maybe relatable. May not be a good question, but
Yeah.
what are some examples of where you've just had to say, this is just everyday life and this is okay? And as I will say, as you transition to parenthood,
Yeah.
you will find that there is a gap more often than maybe you would have expected. And I know that you know that, but I would just love to hear what that's like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we have this idea of what we call balance, right? And you like to balance things, but a balance kind of implies like an equal distribution of energy to something. And so what I rather like to call it with all my people is harmony, to where some days you're not going to have maybe but 10% that you can give to it, right? And so if that 10% looks like going outside and getting a walk in, that's going to be better than doing nothing at all that day. And if some days you have it to go and give an hour and a half of workout, and that's going to getting to the gym and going to get a lift in, and maybe you run in the morning, that's going to be fantastic too. But it's not always going to be the same strict, like, okay, I have to do this on this day and this day and this day. Sometimes, especially like, and that's a really good point, as you get into life happening and you have kids and there's soccer practice and something happens with your children, or I have to go to school and pick them up, it's not always going to happen exactly how you thought it was going to happen. And so the most important thing that I believe there is just making it work how you know you can, given the circumstances. And that's always going to be better than nothing. And so I think if we're going to, that's kind of where the rubber actually meets the road there. You know, ideally, you would like to lift weights 3 times a week and do 150 minutes of cardio a week. But the fact of the matter is that doesn't always shake down that way. And so sometimes it comes out to, I lifted twice this week and I was able to run 2 days. Sometimes it's going to be more, you know, and that changes depending on the person. But I think the most important thing is giving it what you have at that junction, you know.
I love the idea of harmony. Do you think kind of harmony over a week or over 6 weeks, or kind of like, what would you say someone should kind of reassess? Do you think weekly is enough or too much, or what do you think?
I think it's case by case with what you're experiencing as an individual with your life, you know. And so I like to think about stuff on the course of kind of a week, you know, and if you can sit down and I guess prepare for the week, right? Whether you're meal prepping or whatever else, you're looking at your schedule for the week and you kind of see what's going on. You can kind of prepare in advance to say, okay, this is how much I'm probably going to have to give at that point. And then day of or whatever, you can kind of check in again and say, okay, I have some time here. Let me go and do something. I don't know if there's like maybe formally once a week, right? And daily, you're just kind of watching to see what you can give it almost. But definitely checking in on a weekly basis to see where you're at with everything and understanding, you know, given what you're trying to pursue with health and fitness, how it's going, how much you kind of have to give given the circumstances at any time.
Yeah.
That just reminds me too, what you talked about in the other episodes where we discussed consistency and how the consistency, knowing that consistency is part of what you're doing, that allows you to be okay with those places where you actually were not available when you thought you would be. This also makes me think too about the idea of this being a lifestyle shift as opposed to just an exercise plan or lose 30 pounds in 6 months or, you know, whatever. So I'll also say my husband, who happens to be very somewhat motivated by voices like David Goggins.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
Like those voices that speak to the boys.
Yeah.
But for women, that's not the same kind of motivating that we need. First of all, what would you say is the ratio of men to women that you work with?
Probably about 60-40. It's almost half and half.
Pretty close.
Yeah, definitely half and half.
Do you find that you have to tailor your, well, if people are already coming to you, then you can kind of assume that there's a new layer of motivation that's encouraged them to take the next step, engaging with a trainer. But do you find that you tailor the tone of your encouragement and your guidance depending on who you're working with, or is that more like just person to person? The reason I ask is I have not quite yet found the tone that speaks to me.
Sure.
And I know part of it is like when you were talking earlier, I was thinking, I just need somebody to scare me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be what I need. Well, what's scary to me is like what we also talked about, Gretchen, of not being able to get my groceries out of the car.
Sure.
Or not being able to get into the front door, through the front door without help. But to me, I'm like, still so far off.
Right.
So I'm like, I've got a little bit more time. I don't feel a sense of urgency, and the way my brain works is unless there's something really pressing, I tend to just wait. And I know that's not, you can't do that with your physical wellness, because it is an accumulation of so
Right.
many little things over such a long period of time that produce these negative outcomes. So I don't know, maybe I just need to be scared.
Yeah. So I will definitely answer your question in just a second. Let me ask you what motivates you. Because what motivates you isn't what motivates me, isn't what motivates Gretchen.
Right.
And that's a conversation I have with everybody. So what for you is your biggest motivator?
I think knowing that what I'm doing is good and right.
In what way?
I feel
Good and right.
very vulnerable.
Sure, yeah.
That I'm doing what's good and right and best for myself and for others. And that isn't defined by what's easiest.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most often the right things are also the hard things.
I know. And there's parts of my life where I embrace that.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's definitely parts of my life where I say, I have done so many hard things. I don't want to have to do another hard thing.
Absolutely.
But these things are already hard. Have I not done hard things enough? Like, you're laughing because I'm so sorry. It's fine, but
It's a compassionate laugh.
But I think we talked about this too in the other episode. Like, there are certain things where I'm like, I resent the amount of work that I have to put into this because
Right.
I have worked so hard in so many other areas. And I know, like, from a spiritual standpoint, I know God is like, Jennifer, we are not done.
Right.
So I know it's a stewardship issue. I know it's a little bit of an attitude thing and an entitlement thing to think I'm entitled to have an easy time with this. And I've also never had to really work hard with physical stuff
Sure.
until now,
Yeah.
mid to late 40s. Everything changes.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
That's the thing.
So I guess I just need to hear the hard talk.
Yeah. I think you can't constantly beat yourself up over the things that are not happening, right? And it is as easy as saying like, oh, I just need to go up and do it.
Sure.
Right. Like if we're going to tap into Jocko and David Goggins, but it's not also that easy at the exact same time. And so I do have that conversation with everybody when we start, like, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. We do, and then by we, I say my clients and I, we do have that conversation at the beginning of like, okay, what does this mean to you in the grand scheme of things, right? Because let's say, I know for a fact that people will come to me and within 6 months, they know everything they need to know and will be able to go off on their own and do this forever. Like that's kind of how it's set up. And of course, I'm happy to have my people stay, but
Dependence.
right. But the fact of the matter is that like, I want you to know what to do so that whether I'm there or not, you can go and do it. I'll use myself as an example and I'll just go ahead and fall on the sword here. As life has been going on and I'm finding out that we're having a child now, like my long-term kind of vision is that I want my kid to look up to me and see like, oh, that's my dad. Like, he goes and runs 10 miles a day and he works out 5 times a week and I know that he can do that and I want to strive to do that because if I look back 20 years, I used to do that with my dad. My dad was my hero when I was 5.
Oh,
Gonna make me cry.
And so now that I'm 26, I'm watching my dad age in real time.
yeah.
And we don't all age like fine wine, unfortunately. And so my dad is now suffering the fallout from being a really good athlete when he was younger into not moving so much as he ages. And I'm starting to see him get old now for the first time. Like I can see it with my eyeballs, especially now that I live in Texas. I come back to North Carolina. I'm like, whoa, who's this guy that I didn't see 12 months ago? And so I think about that every day. And I do work out a lot, right? A lot more than the average person. It is also my job. But I love the life that I live, knowing that the life that I'm living is in service of my people. For me, working out now and maintaining my health and being as healthy as I can is doing so in service of the success of my family and the growth of my family, right? Like you mentioned, wanting to carry the groceries to the car, right? I don't want to be 70 and not be functional enough to support my child or support his children or their children, right? Because we don't know what's coming yet. And so I think what's most important there individually is sitting down, really cataloging, okay, what does this mean to me? And from there, not just knowing, but putting it places that you travel often to see, right? I tell a lot of people that kind of struggle sometimes when I don't see them outside of when I do see them to write these things down on the mirrors in their house, right? That's a really kind of easy example. Or on your phone screen, right? Like have a couple of, I guess, affirmations as my lock screen, right? To kind of help me remember, okay, where are we at right now? And so having that awareness, I'm sorry, thinking about all that stuff is
I
Stuff.
love that. It's real.
just having that conversation with yourself and then projecting that into other places and then telling the kind of unit that you have, your support system. Like I did a pretty crazy cut a few weeks ago and I told Jess, hey, I need your help. This is what I'm doing. This is why it matters. And I need some help, right? Because she was pretty early on and she was going through the cravings kind of thing. And it was like, I was like fighting tooth and nail to stick to the path, even though it's as important to me as it is. You got to tell your people too, because when you have a community of support around you, that makes your likelihood to succeed so much higher, right? Because it's not just you, and you're not just in your head deciding like, okay, maybe I should have this cookie right now, right? Because that's a really hard conversation in a moment. But other people see you, they go, hey, you said you weren't going to do that. And you said why you were going to do that, right? And so if you can kind of set up a system so that when you're at your lowest, you kind of have your fail safes kick in and pull you back up to the level that you need to be in order for you to succeed. That's really important.
That's good. I'll take that to heart. Truthfully.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the idea of like putting things on the mirrors and taking the time to catalog and articulate your values and your long-term vision. I mean, those are things that apply to so many parts of life, whether it's your finances or your spiritual walk or your, your goals for your family as your children age and launch into adulthood or, as you're starting a new family.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, those are all useful practices and habits. This is just one that for me, it has just been very hard over time for whatever reason. And we have two girls, they're 14 and 16, and our 14-year-old loves working out.
Yeah.
She has a gym membership at the little gym down the street that she loves to go to, and she does all of her things, and she tells us what she gets on the leg press every time. She's very strong, but I know she would be very supportive.
I think it's really important too, and we kind of talked about this before we started recording. I wish we would have caught it.
I know we should have.
But give yourself a little bit of grace if you feel you're falling short, but understand what you need to do to kind of get out of the hole, right? Like don't beat yourself up for maybe not taking the steps, but understand that you need to take the steps. Don't compare yourself to other people, right? Especially with the internet being such a thing right now, and Reels and TikToks and everybody's sexy and has a six pack. Like don't. Stay away from all that stuff. Don't look at those people and go, okay, that needs to be me, because they don't live your life. And give yourself some grace. Take the time to sit down and have that conversation with yourself to find out what drives you. Get your rally kind of your community, and then start taking the walk, right? Because if we tap into the consistency thing, the biggest thing that's going to make a massive difference over a long period of time is sticking with it, right? And let's use investing as an example. You start investing $25 a week when you're 25. By the time you're 65, you're a millionaire when you tap into that IRA. it's kind of the same thing with fitness. Like if you just start building a kingdom brick by brick by brick, it might not happen next month or in 6 months from now, but in a year from now, you're going to look back and go, oh my God, what was I doing back then? You know?
Right.
And so
That's a great parallel.
it's just sticking with it.
In one of our episodes for the health and wellness series, we were talking about how a lot of people, when you look at your DEXA and kind of where you are as far as body fat and lean muscle, and how most of us are in this place of being overfed and undermuscled. So could you speak to that as far as like the process of recomposing your body composition?
Yeah, I don't think fat loss happens, and it can happen at a much higher rate than muscle building will occur, right? So you can lose 30 pounds of fat in 3 months, but in the same span of time, if you are doing everything that you needed to do, crossing all of your T's and dotting your I's with weightlifting and eating properly and all of that, you would be lucky to put on 5 pounds of muscle in 3 months in the same span of time. So fat loss and muscle building do not occur at the same rate by any means, you know, and the longer you get into building muscle, the slower it becomes and the harder it becomes. So it's just a process. Definitely don't put those on the same time scale.
That's so good. And what would you recommend? I know we kind of talked about some recommendations just of taking to the next level of weight training once a week, but for someone who is overfed and undermuscled, what is kind of the long term, like the big picture for what they need to do and what they need to kind of like mentally prepare for? What does that look like long term?
Yeah. So I think Jen brought it up about making the identity shift. Maybe it was I think you said lifestyle at the time, but I think it is also a shift in identity, of shifting out of the thought process of, I'm going to do this for 3 months, and kind of shifting into the thought process of, okay, this is a part of my life now. This is who I am. I don't know if you guys have read Atomic Habits.
I was thinking about this.
So that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from Atomic Habits, that a lot of people don't realize that they're actually doing that thing. Like, and you know, you kind of catch yourself sometimes, like I used to, or I was like this, and that's another one of those things that you have to sit down and have that conversation with yourself of like, okay, I do live a healthier lifestyle now. I live a less gluttonous lifestyle. I don't overeat and underwork, and kind of accepting the fact that this is going to be a journey and that it's a part of a journey now. I think that's kind of the biggest thing, and just accept that it's here for the longer term. I think if we try to define it with what it's going to look like, you kind of get upset if you fall short. You know, if you say, okay, I'm going to work out 7 days a week for the rest of my life, right? It's like, you can say that, and maybe 2 weeks in, it's not happening. You'll be like, I failed now. But just kind of taking the pivot and looking at it as a whole is, okay, I'm nurturing my health and my well-being, and this vessel I've been given for the longer term by feeding myself what I need to and moving how I need to, and just accepting that to be a part of your life, right? And it's going to come in seasons, like anything else does, right? And it's happened to myself even more recently. There's been seasons where I have not trained as hard or trained as often. And then there's seasons where I am training super hard twice a day, every day. And so just letting that ebb and flow, and still having the identity of knowing like, okay, this is a part of who I am, and I accept this and I walk with this, just like anything else. So I think that's the most important thing.
So good. It seems to me like you're really talking about a lot of the work can come even before we're doing the actual work.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing is setting yourself up mentally for success, because if you don't do that, and you start doing the thing and you're not in the proper headspace to do the thing, it's gonna fall off some way or something, right? You can, and a lot of people do this, you can say one thing and not actually really mean it yet. And that kind of goes into not understanding what you actually care about with this thing. And so just mentally preparing yourself before you commit and not going from nothing to everything when you get started, right? A lot of people think, and this is what happens, you kind of get a bug and you start. You're like, I'm gonna go 5 days a week. And then it gets hard 2 weeks in and you're gassed out because you've been grinding it against your lifestyle to make it work, instead of going, okay, what is this going to look like for me? How is this going to work for me? And what can I realistically do with what I have going on? I actually was talking about this in a post I made last week with goal setting, sitting down in the beginning and setting goals. And so when we talk about goals, goals need to be action oriented and not outcome oriented. Like if you say you want to lose 20 pounds, don't set the goal to be lose 20 pounds within a certain time frame, because you can't really control that. But you can control eating less, right? So you're going to watch your food and you're going to eat less for 3 months. And then you can objectively say whether or not you're failing or succeeding, right? But if you get to the end of the 3 months and you did everything you were supposed to do and you still didn't lose 20 pounds, you're going to feel like you failed, even though you did everything you were supposed to do. And so it's just kind of taking a different angle with it that is graceful, I guess. Yeah, like that's what it is. Giving yourself grace and understanding where you're at relative to where you want to be and what's realistic going from point A to point B. So
I think that's one of the ways you've encouraged me over the years too, is a lot of times the numbers don't maybe look as though you'd want them to look.
yeah,
And you will say to me, but how do you feel?
right.
And I say, I feel stronger. I'm sleeping better, like all these other things. And so who cares at some level what the numbers say? You know, I feel stronger. I feel better. Thank you so much, Trevor. You have shared so many practical things, but then also this really big picture of lifestyle change and how we can approach health and wellness for the long term and not just for a little roller coaster short-term gains and losses and things. So I know people are going to want to know where to find you.
Yeah.
So will you share kind of where all of your places of where you
So my Instagram is under T_Wilson_fit. Everything else is under Wilson Wellness Solutions. So my YouTube has a bunch of form videos. They're voiced over, they're guided. That's free game out the wazoo. Literally every exercise you could ever think of is on my YouTube. So if you're really thinking about it and you need just video guidance on stuff, my YouTube has all of that. My Facebook and all that stuff. But my Instagram is pretty much my Facebook, my TikTok, and all the rest of that stuff. So my Instagram is T_Wilson_fit.
Awesome. And one of the things I love about following you on Instagram is you share a lot of practical things as far as like, here is the form of how you do this. And then you share a lot of your clients. And the thing that I love is they are real people. Like so much of what you see on social media is like, is that person real? Like, people look like that, you know, but you share real people who are making progress and doing the hard work. And I love that. It's so refreshing to see real people doing the real work. So I love that. So we will link your Instagram, your YouTube, and your Facebook and website all in the show notes too. So be sure and check that out. We will post links to the show notes. And we also like to do at the end kind of a little call to action. So what are kind of, if you could pick, I'll put you on the spot here, 3 things
Sure.
for someone to do as far as making goals, what would be 3 things they could take away and say, I'm going to do these 3 things?
Yeah. Immediately, if you're not doing so already, definitely a classic kind of marker is 10,000 steps a day. You can, if we have watches, which most of us have Apple Watches or whatever, you can keep your phone close to you and it'll track that. Shooting for that, really just kind of maintaining the idea of moving more. Then with the food, I would go ahead and download MyFitnessPal and start getting into the habit of just paying attention a little bit more to what you're consuming. And if you find you're over consuming, consume less. And so I wouldn't say worry about tracking your calories, just download MyFitnessPal and start looking at your nutrition labels to start paying attention to how much food you're eating. And then for a third goal, I would have everybody sit down intentionally, catalog what they want out of their physicality and what their actual health and fitness and lifestyle goals are relative to where they're at. And write that down. And then once you know what you have with that, you can kind of reverse engineer some actionable steps from there. So those are definitely 3 things I would sit down and do. Watch what you eat, move more, and then know what you want out of the journey to get started for sure.
And you work with in-person clients in Texas, right?
Correct.
And then do you do online?
I do online coaching for people, anybody, anywhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a joy to have time with you in person to ask
I
you
know.
about food.
Yeah.
And you do actually exist.
I do.
Now I know.
I'm real. No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It means a lot. And I know this means a lot to you guys. So it's nice to kind of be a part of the experience.
Well, thank you.